There comes a moment in life when you're no longer looking for answers. You're looking for silence. Not the absence of sound, but the kind of silence that finally quiets the weight you've been carrying inside. That silence that says, you can stop now. You can stop pretending you're okay. You can stop holding everything together. Because deep down, you're exhausted. Not from doing too much, but from holding back the truth of what you feel. From running from a pain that no longer wants to chase you. It just wants to be seen. If this video found you, it's not a coincidence. Something inside of you has already begun to whisper, I'm ready to stop resisting. Your nervous system for years has done what it needed to do. It protected you. It braced itself. It built walls so high that even joy couldn't reach you anymore. And now those walls are heavy, too heavy. Because what once saved you is now suffocating you. Letting go, truly letting go, is not the absence of care, it's the return to care. Not for everyone else, but for you. It's not weakness, it's not failure, it's the most spiritual act your body has been aching for. Carl Pribram once said, the brain doesn't store memories, it orchestrates possibilities. It receives the world not as fixed reality, but as holographic patterns that shift according to your perception. Which means this, you are not bound by your past. You are bound by how your body keeps reliving it. And the healing? It doesn't arrive when you become someone new. It begins the moment you stop trying to fix yourself. Because trying to fix yourself vibrates as rejection. And your soul feels it. Greg Braden, echoing ancient traditions, reminds us, miracles unfold not in force, but in surrender, not in striving, but in presence. Healing, therefore, is not a future destination. It's not something you finally deserve once you've proven your worth. Healing begins the moment you sit with the part of you that still hurts, and choose not to abandon it. So ask yourself, how long have you been postponing the one thing your soul keeps asking for? Not more doing, not more controlling, but simply permission. Permission to feel, permission to stop pushing, permission to breathe into the ache and allow it to speak. Because freedom is not a future event. It's not something you manifest through effort. It's something that begins to bloom. The moment you decide to stop pretending you're not already enough. If this message finds you and something in your chest feels like it's finally exhaling, don't leave it in silence. Let your energy respond. Let your voice meet others who are quietly healing, just like you. Subscribe, leave a comment, or share this with someone who may also need this exact moment. The world doesn't need another mask. It needs your truth. And maybe, just maybe, that truth starts here. Most people believe that healing means going back to who they were before everything changed, back to the version of themselves that smiled more easily, loved more openly, trusted more freely. But what if that version was already out of alignment? What if the person you miss is the exact person your soul was trying to evolve beyond? This is the trap we fall into, the belief that we need to get back to something we once were, instead of becoming who we were always meant to be. You don't need to rewind your story. You need to release the illusion that your wholeness was ever behind you. Because the pain you feel now, the heaviness, the questions that keep you up at night, these are not signs of failure. They are invitations. Invitations to stop rushing your process, to stop mourning the version of you that coped by disconnecting, the version of you that smiled while breaking, the version of you that performed peace while silently screaming. She was never the goal, she was the warning. There is a quiet danger in rushing to feel better. It creates a spiritual bypass, a soft denial disguised as strength. The urgency to just move on often vibrates at the same frequency as the trauma itself, the same panic, the same avoidance. And the truth is, no matter how much light you try to pour over the wound, if the wound doesn't feel safe to exist, it won't let itself heal. Carl Pribram once explained that reality is not fixed. It's formed through interference patterns. What you call now is simply a composition of inner and outer frequencies, overlapping. And when you try to force healing, when you rush the timeline, you don't just delay the process, you distort it. You press yourself into a version of life that doesn't match the rhythm of your soul. The most painful experiences, the ones you keep trying to fix, may actually be the portals your consciousness chose to grow through. Not because you deserve them, but because your depth could hold them. Your soul didn't come here for perfection. It came for expansion. And expansion almost always begins in the dark. Think of a snake that refuses to shed its dead skin. It doesn't survive. Not because the world is cruel, but because growth demands release. Holding on to old layers of identity, of control, of who you used to be, can become a form of spiritual decay. What once protected you is now suffocating your evolution. So, no, you don't need to fix yourself. You need to stop calling your evolution a problem. You are not here to be restored to an old version of yourself. You are here to remember the truth that never broke in the first place. There's something quietly painful about doing everything right and still feeling stuck. You meditate, you journal, you repeat affirmations, you set intentions, yet deep inside, nothing shifts. And that quiet failure begins to echo inside your chest, like a question you're afraid to ask out loud. Why isn't this working for me? The answer isn't that you're doing it wrong. The answer is deeper. The truth is, healing doesn't respond to effort the way you were taught to believe. Because healing doesn't come from the mind alone. It comes from the body's felt sense of safety. And effort, even the spiritual kind, often vibrates like pressure. The subconscious doesn't respond to promises. It responds to repetition. And repetition, when driven by fear or urgency, doesn't regulate the nervous system. It agitates it. You may speak words of peace, but if your actions are fueled by panic, your body still believes it's under attack. You may light candles, play mantras, and visualize the life you want, but if your frequency says, "I'm not safe unless I change," then the change cannot land. Not because you're unworthy, but because the change cannot bloom in a field of self-rejection. Joe Dispenza teaches us that every thought creates a chemical response. That chemical triggers a behavior, and that behavior becomes a pattern of identity. So when you wake up in the morning and immediately start striving to heal, your body doesn't hear, "I love myself." It hears, "I'm not enough yet." And so the healing gets blocked, not by lack of intention, but by lack of internal coherence. What most people don't realize is that true transformation doesn't come when you try harder. It comes when your body feels safe enough to soften, when your breath deepens, when the clenched jaw loosens, when the mind finally stops rehearsing worst-case scenarios and the heart whispers, "It's okay now." That's not something you force, it's something you allow. And allowance can't happen inside of urgency. It only happens inside of presence. Trying to force your way into healing is like pulling open a flower before it's ready. You don't speed up its beauty, you damage its structure. That flower opens on its own when the conditions are right. And so do you. Not through more control, but through surrender, through gentle, consistent permission to be exactly where you are, without shame. So if your healing hasn't arrived the way you expected, it's not because you failed. It's not because you're blocked beyond repair. It's likely because some part of you is still afraid. Not afraid of being in pain, but afraid of what might happen if the pain actually left. Who would you be without it? What would fill the space it once occupied? The subconscious doesn't fear change because it's hard. It fears change because it's unknown. And that's why safety must come first, before the affirmations, before the vision boards, before the mantras. Safety is the soil. Healing is the seed. And the effort you think you need? It's often the very thing keeping your roots from growing. There's a stillness that enters when you finally stop fighting the pain. not because the pain is gone, but because something inside you has surrendered to the truth that it's no longer something to be feared. That stillness is not weakness, it's not defeat, it's the beginning of real transformation. Because the moment you stop resisting what is, reality starts to respond in ways you couldn't access before. So many people carry the belief that their healing is waiting for a specific breakthrough, some external moment, a future version of themselves, a dramatic shift. But often, what's actually blocking the shift isn't the trauma itself. It's the insistence that the healing must look a certain way. A clean resolution, a quick recovery, a linear path. But your soul doesn't evolve in straight lines. It expands in spirals, in waves, in seasons. And the timeline that your ego created might be the very thing suffocating the miracle you've been waiting for. Karl Pribram spoke of time as a construct of the mind, an illusion shaped by the way we process experience. In the quantum field, there is no past or future, only interference patterns collapsing into now. This means that when you resist what's here, you're not just delaying change, you're stepping out of resonance with the present moment, the only place where real healing happens. Surrender isn't passive. It's a vibrational decision to meet life as it is, not as you demand it to be. You don't need to become someone better. You don't need to prove that you're worthy of peace. You only need to return. Return to yourself, to the version of you that existed before shame taught you to armor your heart. That version isn't gone. It's buried beneath years of trying to be acceptable. And the moment you stop digging for the answers in external things and start remembering the silence within you, something ancient and powerful begins to move. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you believe is real. So when you keep acting as if healing is something outside of you, something far off or conditional, you emit the vibration of longing. But the moment you breathe into what is already here, the grief, the rage, the confusion, even the emptiness, you begin to embody truth. And truth has its own frequency. It doesn't demand, it doesn't beg, it simply is. And because it is, it magnetizes what matches it. Imagine a river that has been dammed for years, stagnant, pressurized, still appearing calm on the surface, but raging underneath. That's what resistance does to your energy. It traps flow. But the moment the resistance weakens, even just a little, the water remembers how to move. It rushes, it clears, it reshapes the land itself. You don't need more force, you need more permission. And in that permission, your soul begins to realign with what it always knew, that freedom was never about doing more. It was always about finally letting go. There is something profoundly liberating about realizing that the universe never needed your perfection. It only ever waited for your permission. Permission to feel, permission to soften, permission to stop trying so hard to be fixed, and instead to simply be present with what aches inside you. Karl Pribram reminded us that the brain interprets the universe not as a collection of fixed facts, but as a field of probabilities, a living, breathing matrix of possibilities, waiting to be collapsed into form by the vibration you carry inside. What you expect emotionally, what you embody energetically, becomes the signal that shapes your external reality. It's not your thoughts alone that change your world, it's your felt truth. And truth, at its deepest level, doesn't come from striving, it comes from allowing. Bruce Lipton takes this further. Beliefs don't live in the conscious mind. They live in the body, in the breath, in the nervous system. The moment you truly accept an emotion, not judge it, not bypass it, not reframe it, but fully feel it without resistance, you begin to reprogram your biology, not through mental effort, but through emotional honesty. That is the most radical healing you can allow yourself. Not a new identity, not a new version of you, but a new relationship with the now. The truth is, what you've been calling a delay may have been grace all along. That space between where you are and where you thought you should be, that wasn't punishment, that was alignment. That was the interval where your soul was quietly dismantling all the false scaffolding, not to hurt you, but to bring you home. Home to a place inside you that is no longer governed by fear, no longer rushing, no longer negotiating its worth with the world outside. There is no race, no benchmark, no finish line. There is only this breath, and this one, and this one. Every inhale a quiet agreement with life. Every exhale a release of what no longer fits. You don't need to rush. You don't need to know what comes next. You only need to stop resisting. Let these final words land softly in your chest. I am ready to stop resisting. Let them echo not as a mantra, but as a truth that your whole being already recognizes. Let them unlock something that has waited lifetimes to be remembered. And if these words found you in a moment of quiet readiness, it's because your soul has already begun the return. Share this with someone who may be standing at the edge of their own inner threshold. Subscribe if this space speaks to your journey. And if you feel called, leave a comment with the words, I am ready. Sometimes speaking it aloud is the first real act of freedom.